In November 2024, a PlayStation user noticed something odd. Logged in, Astrobot on the PS Store was $44.99, but when they logged out, it was $59.99? They shared it on Reddit. Weird, but maybe some kind of discount? A year later, another post. Red Dead 2. Same region, even the same PlayStation, but two different prices. More of these began to pop up. What was happening? Then, the site PS Prices, which tracks PlayStation Store prices, reported that Sony has been secretly experimenting with dynamic pricing. Two users can secretly be given different discounts. Is this even legal? Unfortunately, this is just the beginning. Sony is trying to squeeze customers for as much as possible, and something far bigger is forcing their hand. And it's not just Sony. A gigantic battle over the very nature of discounts is just beginning, and some are doing much worse than Sony. So, what was actually going on? The team at PS Prices, the platform that tracks the PlayStation Store, noticed something strange. The store's public-facing API started including weird settings. First was IPT_OPR_testing. It was attached to 17 games in 42 regions. Then another, IPT_pilot, 139 games across 68 regions, but in particular, a lot of Sony's own titles. Then another in March, IPT_LTM, US only 104 games. What were these? Users were secretly being assigned to control and test groups. You might see a standard price or an experimental price depending on the group. So, the user who had a different price from his wife? One would have been a control group and the other a test group, despite both being in the same region and currency and even the same house. During the February PlayStation Store sales, we found that experiment participants received a different discount percentage than regular users. For example, Helldivers 2 was sold to regular users at a 25% discount, while experiment participants saw a 56% discount. But it gets even weirder. IPT_LTM, for example, the US one, was testing discounts against each other with much bigger discounts. The retail price for GTA 5 was $40. Some users saw a discount to $30, others $27. So, what was going on? People are calling it dynamic pricing, and it's sort of, but not quite. It's hard to say, but it doesn't seem like it fluctuates enough based on real-time demand to be called dynamic pricing. To be clear, no one was being charged above retail. Some users were getting bigger discounts than others. What's actually happening is that Sony is testing price elasticity. This is something businesses do to figure out how sensitive you are to price changes. For Sony, using A/B testing, they're trying to figure out how much they need to lower prices to get you to buy, who will pay full price, and who needs a bit more of a nudge. This sort of pricing already exists. Airlines do this all the time, which is why people frequently pay different amounts for the same ticket. Amazon and other big retailers also do this, egregiously so. They'll send targeted coupons to people based on their shopping behavior, or a welcome back discount. Though, very recently, this is getting a lot worse, and for Sony, this feels different and unwarranted for video games. There's a social contract with a storefront. Everything should be uniform. Everyone should see the same discount. That was the promise, unlike with airlines or Amazon. Hiding the discounts feels a bit weird. Plus, Sony's strong monopoly position over the store basically means you pay what they decide or nothing at all. And most of all, price elasticity is also tied to supply. But digital games don't run out because there is no limited supply, no limited number of plane seats to fill. Plus, what determines what group you're in? Is it random or something more tailored based on behavior? Gamers are naturally pretty annoyed at this. More and more posts began popping up. Another user had Assassin's Creed Unity displaying a discounted price of £374 when browsed logged out, jumping to £999 once they logged into their account. But moderators deleted that one annoyingly. The media quickly picked up on it. Push Square reported that, "We've been able to replicate this on the browser-based PS Store. When logged in, we see the higher price, and it swaps to the lower one when we're not, just as shown above." This is absolutely ridiculous and extremely scummy. Shame on Sony. I'll be buying even less digital games than I already do. Someone shared the PS Prices article on Reddit, which got 1,100 comments in 4 days. But why is this happening now? As it turns out, Sony is caught right in the middle of a huge change, and they're being squeezed. If you work in marketing, SEO, or have a website, you know that a lot of decisions feel like guesswork. Which topics to cover, which keywords to target, where to spend your time. Lots of decisions to make, but often with incomplete information. So start making the right calls with the full picture with Ahrefs. Ahrefs is a practical, everyday marketing toolkit that anyone can start using immediately. It gives you free tools to understand your market, find opportunities, and make better marketing decisions. Instead of wondering why your site isn't getting traffic or what content you should be creating next, Ahrefs gives you concrete answers and for free. Start with Site Audit. It runs a complete SEO audit of your website, flags SEO and technical problems, and shows you exactly how to fix them. And no matter your website, every SEO category is covered. Then use Web Analytics to see how visitors are actually behaving on your site, where they're coming from, and where you're losing them. But Ahrefs is super fast and lets you see website visitors within a minute of their event. Ahrefs also lets you create content more optimized for visibility with their AI content helper. Spend less time researching and more time creating. Ahrefs is designed to be deep for experts and easy to learn for beginners. You can jump right in and start improving your website for free. 44% of the Fortune 500 use it to make informed marketing decisions. Whether you're a seasoned marketer or just starting out, Ahrefs gives you the tools you need. Click the URL in the description and head to ahrefs.com/free and start using the tools today. Thank you to Ahrefs for sponsoring this video. To understand what's really going on, we need to look no further than our old friend, Big Tech. AI companies, Nvidia, Google, Microsoft, are paying premium prices for high-speed memory at a scale that consumer electronics manufacturers simply can't compete with. But they're not really buying the same RAM as Sony. They're trying to get HBM or high bandwidth memory. So what does this have to do with the PlayStation? Well, consoles use a particular type of DRAM, GDDR, and because companies are making more HBM to keep up, they aren't prioritizing other kinds of RAM. Micron, the third largest RAM supplier, has left the consumer market entirely. There's not enough to go around, so prices have gone up a lot. DRAM contract prices have been revised upward, from a previous estimate of 55 to 60% to now 90 to 95%. So Sony has a bit of a problem, getting enough RAM. In November 2025, Sony CFO Lin Tao told investors that Sony had secured just enough memory supply to keep PS5 hardware profitable, but only through March 2026. Anything after that wasn't guaranteed, and it gets worse. PlayStation hardware margins are pretty thin, under 10%, way more than before, but still low. It is likely that Sony had price protections for its components for a set period, and this may well have come to an end. With no signs of prices easing, Sony will have made the move to protect its slim hardware margins. To be clear, Sony as a whole isn't struggling. Operating profits jumped 22% year over year in Q3 2025. PlayStation alone brought in around $900 million, up 19%, but things were getting worse and fast. With this road of uncertainty ahead, it gives context to some decisions. In Sony's Q3 earnings call, February 2026, right at the end of Sony's RAM supply, CFO Lin Tao said something interesting. "We intend to minimize the impact of the increased memory cost on this segment going forward by prioritizing monetization of the install base to date and striving to further expand our software and network service revenue." The installed base, aka the people who already own a PS5. So what does all this have to do with Sony's pricing experiment? Sony takes a 30% cut from every PS Store purchase, like Apple and Steam, even if it's not their own games. This is something they're currently being sued for. But now, they're trying to get their install base to buy more by testing elasticity. Console margins are slim and getting slimmer, so why not extract more from the area with far better margins? Users are now expecting a price hike to PS Plus, with some threatening to cancel if they do. Others are suggesting buying a year subscription now before the price jumps, though don't know how that sticks it to Sony. On March 27, 2026, Isabel Tomatas, VP of Global Marketing, announced, "With continued pressures in the global economic landscape, we made the decision to increase the prices of PS5, PS5 Pro, and PlayStation Portal Remote Player globally." Since launch in November 2020, the PS5 Disc Edition has gone from $500 to $650, $150 more than day one. The PS5 Pro launched at $700 in late 2024, and it's now $900, $200 more in under 2 years. I didn't realize the PlayStation was an appreciating asset. I thought consoles were supposed to get cheaper. People are now expecting the Switch 2 to also see a price hike. And that's not even mentioning the new digital license controversy. The more things change, the more they stay the same. But something is changing. This type of tailored, opaque pricing from Sony is becoming more common. There is a huge battle waging right now over the very nature of sales and discounts. More and more companies are trying to change the way discounts work altogether. Even worse than Sony, many companies will secretly charge you more, and not at random. And I'm not talking about dynamic pricing or surge pricing, where prices change based on general demand, time of day, and scarcity. Why hotels cost more on the same day as a big sporting event. That's normal. I'm talking about surveillance pricing. Instacart began using AI price experiments, and a nonprofit found that prices differed by up to 23% per item. Target's app will display higher prices on the same products, like 148 more for the same vacuum cleaner. Even weirder, these price changes came when you were inside the store versus on the far side of the parking lot. Staples will charge you more if you have fewer options, like if you're near a competitor. Delta announced it would start deploying surveillance pricing, though it quickly backpedaled after backlash. Hotel prices in Manhattan jumped by as much as $511 per night when browsing from a Bay Area IP address compared to Phoenix or Kansas City. And don't even get me started on Amazon, though this pricing has started a war. This year, lawmakers across the US have introduced more than 70 bills targeting surveillance pricing, travel, grocery, rental markets, and now gaming. On March 5, 2026, the House Oversight Committee formally launched an investigation into it, sending letters to major platform companies demanding documentation on their pricing algorithms. Surveillance pricing can be difficult to detect because consumers rarely have a view into what information a company has about them, what the prices they see are based on, or what prices other customers may be seeing for the same goods or services. Often, this takes place in a black box environment where consumers do not know that personalized pricing is taking place or what information collected about them is driving prices. Maryland just passed the Protection from Predatory Pricing Act, the first law of its kind in the US, banning retailers and delivery services from using personal data to tailor prices, though it might not be enough. Consumer Reports said it had too many industry-friendly loopholes and weak enforcement provisions, but Maryland is just the beginning. Hawaii, California, Illinois, Kentucky, Connecticut, more than a dozen states have bills pending. Sony's pricing might not be as bad as some of these other cases, based on your income, location, or other private factors. But it's along the same train of thought, and experiments are often the first step of a bigger plan. The worst part of all these pricing strategies is the lack of transparency. In 1970, economist George Akerlof published the paper Market for Lemons, which won him a Nobel Prize and changed the way we understood the free market. In the used car market, sellers know whether their car is good or a lemon, but buyers can't tell. So buyers just pay the average price instead of more for the good car and less for the bad. With more information, customers make better purchasing decisions and better quality products win. But in a black box, customers lose and spend more for worse products. Currently, Sony is in hot water over another problem as well. They make so much money from the PS Store because they charge 30% since they hold all the power. But now, they're caught in a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit, as some think this is an illegal monopoly that has caused prices to be too high. Check out this video to learn more, but until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.